God, I'm here. Hello. Gosh, I have to say, I am new to genealogy, and I just can't imagine a better place than right here to be introduced. So thank you. I really love that the theme this year is together, because the work that I do is really ultimately all about connection. It's connection to the past, it's connection to the future, it's connection to self, and it's connection to each other. So I just want to take one moment to feel the energy of connection and togetherness in this room. I want to claim this space as a safe space and this time as a sacred time. And I want to just feel your beautiful energy, because you guys have been so warm and so welcoming to me since I've been here. So I'm going to invite you all to take one big breath with me. Is that okay? Okay, one big breath. We'll do 3 counts in, 3 counts out. And it's a way to just be fully present and to feel connected to each other. All right, are we ready? Okay, so one breath in, 1, 2, 3, and one breath out. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. I don't know about you, but I feel more connected. So thank you. So as you heard, I have spent the last 8 years, I can't believe it's been 8 years, following, diving with, and telling stories about a group of Black scuba divers who dive for slave shipwrecks around the world. And it has been an incredible journey. The first thing that I want you to know is that I was not a scuba diver before I started this work. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. Hello. Which is landlocked, so we don't know anything about the ocean in Atlanta. The other thing that I want you to know, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit this to this crowd, but it's true. I wasn't that interested in history, to tell you the truth. I am a sci-fi fantasy girl. Yeah. So I live in my imagination or in the future. Wasn't that interested in the past. But something happened to change all of that. It was 2016. You can all flash back to 2016. It's a pretty big year. And that was a year that the fractures that existed in our national consciousness around race seemed to take center stage. And I wanted to do something to help heal the space, but I didn't know what to do. I had just moved to Washington, D.C., and I'd just taken a job at a nonprofit. But the nonprofit wasn't centered on these issues. So I felt out of step, I felt off purpose, and I just felt kind of miserable, to tell you the truth. But then I got a ticket to visit the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. Has anybody visited that museum? Right? It is an incredible place. I would highly recommend, if you ever visit Washington, D.C. and you've not gone, that you go. It's just full of incredible stories. So I went and I took my time in this museum. I wanted to visit every exhibit on every single floor. And I ended up on the second floor. And the second floor is this tiny floor that most people tend to skip because it's the archival floor. So actually, probably no one in this room would skip that floor. But I went and I saw something on that floor that literally changed the trajectory of my life. It was a picture. Oh, I forgot. We've got slides. I'm supposed to press the button for slides. Oh, here we go. It was a picture of a group of primarily Black and brown women in wetsuits. This is it. It's funny because it's really just a simple snapshot. There's nothing that's that special about this picture. It's not a poised, glamorous portrait. It's just a snapshot. But when I saw it, it literally stopped me in my tracks. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I kind of felt like the whole floor went stage dark, and it was like there was a light that was just shining on the picture. I felt like the clouds parted and the angels started to sing. There was just something about the women in this picture that just looked so beautiful to me. They looked so free and so joyous. And they made me remember my dreams as a child. So as I said, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I grew up with just my mom. I'm an only child, so it was just me and her. And my mom was a reading teacher. So I don't know how the universe matches children and parents together, but I think my mom was the perfect mom for me because I was one of those nerdy kids who loved books. I used to, get under my covers late at night with my flashlight, just trying to read stories. And fantasy and sci-fi novels were my favorite. I loved stories that had magic in them, or dragons, or heroes that were on a quest to save the kingdom. My very favorite novel of all times, and I would read it every single year, was Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time. Yes? Okay. I really yearned for Mrs. Whatsit to come knock on my window and invite me to come join and save the universe. She never did. But as I grew older, I began to realize that none of the characters in the books that I loved so much ever looked like me. The books that had characters that looked like me were often about Black pain and Black trauma. Rarely were they about our curiosities, our wonders, our adventures. I knew that I wanted to be an adventurous storyteller, but I started to think maybe I couldn't live an adventurous life. So flash back to that picture in 2017 of the divers. It transported me. And then when I read to find out, well, who are they and what do they do, I found out that they were a part of a group called Diving with a Purpose, and that what they did was to help search for and document slave shipwrecks around the world. I remember thinking, wait, what? They do what? I couldn't believe it. Not only were they adventurers, but to me it felt like they were actually on a real-life quest to help save our kingdom. So I reached out, and eventually they invited me to come dive with them. I have to say that I never could have predicted that scuba diving would be the thing to enter my life and change it so completely. But it gave me a way to have adventures, and it gave me a way to encounter the ocean. How many of you are scuba divers out here? Okay, okay, a few people. All right, well, how many of you are snorkelers? Maybe a few more? Okay. For those that didn't say anything, do you at least go to the water and put your foot in, shake it around? Yes? Okay, yes. I didn't know that the ocean was such a beautiful and magical place. I actually want to play a little clip for you of what it's like for me to dive out on the ocean and to do this work. Now that's me in my scuba suit, but that's the only picture that you're gonna see right now. So this is just an audio clip. And I'm gonna play a few audio clips this morning for you. So I invite you to just close your eyes and listen.
Blue, as far as my eye can see. Salt spray tickling my face. The motion of the boat as it skims across the surface. It's beating us toward adventure. Next to me in the boat are women and men, all in wetsuits, all ages. Afros and braids are flying in the wind. They all look invincible, and they've got these big smiles on their faces. Out there, ahead of us, is a ship that's been buried under the waves for over 300 years. A ship like that once brought our ancestors to this side of the world.
Some incredible stories that these vessels have, but they're out of memory, out of mind. Why is that?
Mask on. I take one more look around, and then I tip over the side. I drop in. I love scuba diving. The way I feel like I'm in another universe, like I'm flying. I'm under the water, but here I can actually breathe.
As I trained with Diving with a Purpose, I began to learn more about the history of the transatlantic slave trade, and I learned things that I never knew before. I'd like to share with you two stats that I learned. I think that they help contextualize this history, and they both blew me away. The first stat that I want to share is that there were 12,000 ships that participated in the transatlantic slave trade. They brought 12.5 million Africans to the Americas. 12,000 ships. I realized that when I was growing up, I couldn't tell you the name of a single one of those ships, but yet I could tell you all about the Mayflower. I could tell you about the Titanic. I could tell you about all these other ships that were considered important in history. That didn't feel right to me. The other stat that I want to share, and this is the one that sits heaviest on my heart, I learned that there were approximately 1.8 million Africans who died in the crossing from Africa to the Americas. We're not talking about the number of people who died on the march to the ships or the number of people who died once the ships arrived and they were enslaved. Just in the crossing, 1.8 million people. I had no idea that that many people lost their lives. I wondered, who's mourning for those people? Where are the official global memorials to honor their lives? I began to realize as I went deeper into this work that there are just whole chapters of history that are missing. And I wanted to help bring those chapters back into memory. So I applied for a National Geographic grant. I got it, and it allowed me to travel with the divers around the world, helping to bring this history back into memory. I want to show you a picture of some of the divers that I met along the way. Everywhere I went, I took pictures of them. The youngest person here is 16 years old, and the oldest is 86. They are policemen, yoga teachers, students, archaeologists, business owners, dancers, engineers, pilots, military officers, people from all walks of life and all over the world who love scuba diving and who have been trained to assist maritime archaeologists in a technique called underwater archaeology mapping. So I started telling stories for National Geographic about the divers, the ships, and about my own transformation doing this work. We produced a 6-episode narrative podcast called Into the Depths, And I do want to take a little commercial break here to say that Into the Depths is streaming on all audio platforms. So if anybody wants to listen to it, you can easily listen to it. I also wrote the cover story for the magazine, and I became the first Black woman explorer in Nat Geo's over 130-year history to ever grace the cover of the magazine. It's incredible. Here it is. Here we go. And I wrote my book, Written in the Waters, which was released last year. And with each telling, I began to see ever-deepening layers to this story. I want to play another clip for you of what my mother's pastor said to me when I was visiting her house one day, and he happened to be there. She was really nervous about me traveling all over the world, even though I'm a grown woman. I was a grown woman then, but I'm my mother's only child, and she was like, oh no, my baby's traveling all over the world. I need the pastor to bless her. Now, that's not something I would have done on my own, but I'm so glad that she did, because his words made me realize that even more was at stake.
If you can get in tune with the essence, the spirit of those of our ancestors who were lost during that middle passage, invite their blessing on the work. You can do so by your prayer meditation. You come across names, speak their names, speak the names. And then ask them to bless you. Ask them for permission to tell the story. Ask them to go before you to make the way straight, smooth, and harmonious.
Listen. I hold their stories in my arms. Stories from the depths of my ocean. I've memorized every inch of their heartbeats. There is a song growing in my waves we have not heard before. Listen. It speaks their names.
That was Bishop Jack Bomar of Hillside International Chapel and Truth Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and Aaliyah Pierce, who is another Nat Geo explorer and a spoken word artist. So I know I'm in a room full of people who know about the ancestors, but that wasn't something, quite honestly, that I thought that much about. But Bishop helped me realize that the ancestors were calling on me and others, including some of you in this room. I'm clear I'm not the only one, to help bring their stories back into memory. When I would think of captive Africans or enslaved Africans on plantations, I honestly didn't really see individual people. I saw statistics. I saw faceless victims. But these people were mothers, fathers, dreamers, farmers, poets, mathematicians, scientists. I want to show you a picture of my great-great-grandparents, Jack and Mary, who were both born enslaved. So my mom has always had this picture on her wall. But I have to be honest, I wasn't that curious about it. And that's because I was afraid that their stories were going to be too painful. But thanks to this work and an incredible genealogist in Virginia named Renata Sanders Yarborough, we know Renata, yes! Renata is the one who introduced me to RootsTech, so yay, Renata. I finally got curious, and she and I did some digging. We focused mainly on Jack. I knew that Jack was born enslaved in 1837 in North Carolina, but Renata helped me to discover that his life wasn't just one of trauma and hardship. We discovered that Jack managed to purchase 174 acres of land in the 1800s in the Deep South. He was also a delegate to the Freedmen's Convention in 1865, which helped determine the rights of those newly freed. And we believe he fought in the Civil War in the United States colored troops. And word is that he owned a juke joint and that he might have spent a little time in jail because of it. But Jack wasn't just an enslaved person. He was a whole human being with pain and sadness, but also joy and laughter. You already know why these stories of our ancestors are so important, why we must remember, but I didn't know. And slowly, I began to think, what if by speaking their names and the names of the ships, what if I could help raise their stories from the depths, in their fullness, in their wonder, with love, with honor, with respect, and finally help heal a wound that has festered in this world for far too long? That, to me, is the promise of this work. So I want to share a very quick... I want to share a really quick example to you of exactly how this work of documenting slave ships can help us move to a new place. This is the story of a ship called the São José Paquete de Africa. It was a Portuguese ship that left from Mozambique Island in the north of Mozambique, and it was on its way to Brazil. But it went down in 1794 off the coast of Cape Town, South Africa. We know that it had some 500 people of the Makua ethnic group on board. About half of the captives died that night, and the other half were sold into slavery in South Africa. So ordinarily, this is where the story might end. But thanks to this work, the story continues. So a team called the Slave Wrecks Project, which Diving with a Purpose is a part of, discovered the wreck in 2015. And they realized that many of the Makua descendants still lived in and around Mozambique Island today. So the team reached out to the Makua there to tell them about the wreck. And those Makua descendants decided to hold a celebration because they finally knew what happened to their ancestors. So on that day, they celebrated with music and food and dance and speeches. And at the end, the Makua chief gave a gift of a cowrie shell encrusted basket to Dr. Lonnie Bunch. Lonnie Bunch is the founding director of the museum, the Black Museum, and the head of all Smithsonian museums in DC. So the chief tasked Lonnie with a mission. I'm going to let Lonnie tell you what he said. That's Mozambique Island.
And so I'm looking at this beautiful cowrie shell encrusted vessel, just gleaming whiteness. And when I opened it, it was full of dirt. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm not clear what this is. Why is this a gift? What did his ancestors ask? And then he sort of teared up and said that his ancestors have asked that when I go back to South Africa where the ship was, if I could sprinkle the soil over the site of the wreck, so for the first time since 1794, my people can sleep in their own land. I lost it. I'm crying. I'm trying to not sort of, drop the vessel, and I'm just thinking about the contradictions, the beauty that surrounds me, the fact that I'm a historian, but this is about how living people feel and think, and to have this vessel, it almost was as if I was holding an iron weight. It was so heavy. It wasn't heavy, but it seemed heavy. And it made me think, please don't drop it. Please give this the care it deserves.
So I'm happy to say that Lonnie did not drop the vessel. And the team did go back to South Africa. And they did as the Makua chief requested. They held a ceremony with dignitaries and media, and they chose 3 divers, an African American, a Mozambican, and a South African, to go to the site. The weather that day was terrible. It was overcast and rainy with dark, stormy clouds. The sea was rough and the swells were high. The divers had to actually lock arms with each other to reach the site, but they did it. Now, this happened in 2015, so it was before I started doing this work, so I wasn't there. But all the people that I interviewed reported the same thing. They all said that after the ceremony was performed, and once the divers made it back to shore, the clouds suddenly dispersed and the sun came out, and that the sea and the waves quieted down. Now, maybe the wind patterns just were destined to change at that particular moment, but maybe, just maybe, those ancestors were released on that day and something was healed for them. I know something healed for Lonnie and for the divers. Something healed for me when I heard the story years later. And maybe something is healing for you as you listen today. I know on some level that this might seem like hard, sad, traumatic work, but to me it isn't. This isn't only about the pain and the shame and the heaviness of the past. To me, this is more about moving through the pain to get to a new place. I feel nothing but agency and power when I'm below the surface and helping to bring up these stories. And it's because we have, these historians, these archaeologists, these divers. We have raised our hands and we have said we're not waiting on the approval of others to prioritize this history. We're saying that this history matters and that we volunteer to bring it back into history right now. Because here's the thing, the transatlantic slave trade is not just Black history, nor is it just American history. The transatlantic slave trade is global history, and it changed everything. It is one of the most monumental events in human history. Those 400 years of transporting 12.5 million Africans to the Americas created the foundation of the world that we have today. It created wealth, it destroyed wealth, it changed coastlines and landscapes, it created the trade routes we use today, and it ushered in the rise of new geopolitical powers that still dominate today. And this is perhaps most important of all, the transatlantic slave trade connected us in a way that cannot be undone. Europe, Africa, South America, North America, and the Caribbean are forever intertwined because of those 12,000 ships voyaging across the Atlantic. Just think of the transfer of beliefs, of cultures, of religions, of ideas, of goods, of people. We are a part of each other. So what if we could lean into that connection? Could it change how we see each other? And if how we see each other changes, could that change how we think we're responsible for each other? So for me, this is a fresh story. It's full of potential and opportunity for profound healing. I think it offers a roadmap to understanding the fullness of our collective heritage. So this is the work, and I feel so honored and thankful to be involved in it. I actually get to be that adventurous storyteller that I dreamed of being as a kid. Yay. And there's so much more diving to do. Historians say that there are approximately 1,000 shipwrecks out there, and to date, less than 20 have been found and properly documented. And Nat Geo has just invited me to become an explorer in residence so that we can birth a part 2 of this project together. It's going to be awesome. It's a really, really unique idea that we have to memorialize those who were lost. But I can't tell you anything about it. Not yet. I hope I can announce that soon. But if you want to follow along on the journey or be a part of it somehow, here are ways to stay in the loop. So lastly, I want to play one final clip of a conversation I had with my nieces, because ultimately I do this work for them, for the next generation. Whatever we do or don't do for them is what they will inherit. So I want you to hear what they said when I asked them to be a part of this work, if they wanted to be involved in this work. Do you think it matters to know that kind of history, where we came from? I'm here with my nieces, Wu and Shai, trying to be the conduit for them that my ancestors have been for me. We're learning from each other.
I think it matters. I think it's pretty cool.
Let me ask you this. Do you know that your ancestors, like way, way, way back, came from Africa? Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that my ancestors came from Africa.
Do you guys know about the work I'm doing?
The history of the slave ships and about your family.
Yeah.
I'm following these divers as they search for slave shipwrecks. So what do y'all think about that?
I think that's pretty cool. You get to explore more about the world and you get to learn more stuff that you didn't already know. And I think that's cool.
Do you care about that history, like knowing all that far back?
It's awesome. It's cool, like when you get older, you'll be able to tell people that you had this cool aunt and she did all this stuff and she got to explore the world.
I wish I could do it, but I still got school to finish up, which is boring. Because if I didn't have school, I would have been joined you on it, of course.
Will y'all come scuba diving with me one day?
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, you will. All right. This is the new saying. Instead of Obama's yes, I can, it's yes, we will.
Yes. When I spoke to them, we had this conversation, they were just kids, and now they're teenagers. But I'm really proud to say that I got them in the water. So here are my 2 of the nieces in wetsuits, and they keep asking me when they can dive next. So yay. That's it for me. Thank you so much for your generous listening today. Thank you.